Alright, bros, welcome to another gun-centered video. It's been a while since I've done one. So, what are we talking about today? We're talking about Fudd lore. Now, what exactly is a Fudd? Well, we have several definitions, and there's about three of them, which is what I'm going to work with. It's kind of like how we in the Red Pill community use hypergamy. You have the dictionary sort of definition of what hypergamy is, and which is a little bit different than the way that we use it. But to begin, Fudd, like Elmer, slow, dumb, happily clueless, owns firearms, commonly used for hunting, knows jack shit about the Constitution of the United States of America, believes the Second Amendment was written so he could own a shotgun and a bolt-action deer rifle, has no interest in other types of firearms, and may condemn and even help ban them. All right, number two. Slang term for a casual gun owner, e.g., a person who typically owns guns for hunting or shotgun sports and does not truly believe in the true premise of the Second Amendment. These people also generally treat owners, users of so-called non-sporting firearms like handguns or semi-automatic rifles with unwarranted scorn or contempt. And these definitions are, of course, from Urban Dictionary, and the pictures of some of these Fudds come from our Fudd Life. I don't generally go on Reddit, but I thought this was particularly interesting, so I used it. All right, so my main definition of a Fudd, besides that, is the Know Your Meme definition. Fudd lore is a myth and misinformation concerning firearms that is often repeated by older gun owners or by those with little or no actual firearms experience. It is a topic that is frequently joked about on forums such as 4chan's K and Reddit's r Fudd lore. And I have to tell you, I see a lot of this shit, and most of the time I keep my mouth shut and I don't, correct people that often. That being said, this is me when I start hearing that shit. Like, that's, you know, it's, you guys know or should know my history when it comes to firearms and how it's been, part of my job, my career. I've had several where they're very firearm centric. Also happens to be one of my main hobbies. So I make a point to know what I'm talking about before I open my mouth when it comes to firearms. And I mean, think about it. If you guys are like, say, a software engineer or a regular engineer, and you hear people who maybe watched the movie Hackers or something, you know what I mean? Like, you just hear people just repeat dumb shit. Or think about how, people are dealing with the coof. There's a lot of lore regarding that. So that's the level of aggravation sometimes that it brings me to. So, with that out of the way, let's begin talking about the different Fudd lores. A 50 caliber bullet can still kill you even if it misses. Now this is absurd, and everybody knows what 50 cal I'm talking about. We're talking about out of, like, say, a Barrett 50 cal, the 50 BMG round, which is a huge, very powerful round. And if it hits you, you're not having a good day. Even if it probably grazes you, you're not having a good day. Just gonna say that. But for it to, like, completely miss you, like, people actually believe that if it misses you, that the sonic wave that comes after it will somehow kill you. I'm not sure how that's grounded in reality whatsoever. But it's one of the pieces of lore that has been perpetrated for quite a while now. All right, next one. A shotgun with birdshot is all you need for home defense. Now, for me, if someone breaks into my house and they know I'm here, I'm immediately going to assume the worst. Like, they're here to kill my ass. because that's not what a good thief does, right? I'm just gonna leave that there. And birdshot's not gonna cut it, especially if you're using the. You guys know I don't recommend shotguns for home defense that much. Not really, not really my recommendation. But especially if you're using birdshot, you ain't gonna do nothing but piss them off. You might scare them, shock them for a second, but I mean, if they're armed with like a pistol, which is usually what criminals have, a handgun, and you're facing them with birdshot, good fucking luck, dude. That's just goofy, but it is a part of the lore that these Fudds, and this is the boomer stuff, by the way, and then we're gonna kind of slowly get into the more Gen X millennial stuff. You'll see what I'm talking about. All right, here's a good one. If there is an intruder, just fire off 2 blasts from your double barrel shotgun outside. And that is along the same context as the birdshot thing. That's just dumb as fuck. And, again, I presume, yeah, you might scare them because the blast is loud, but you also have to remember the person giving this advice was saying shoot it in the air, of course. And so, to be honest, gravity, there's this thing called gravity, and if you fire a round off in the air, we have to remember that what goes up must come down, number one. So you could cause an injury to, a person or property damage or whatever by doing this, but also, like, I don't think that's going to scare most people who are breaking into your house knowing you're there. Like, there's this level of just being brazen that comes with breaking into a house that's occupied, right? But, funny, typical boomer advice. All right, this one is great. This one's all over the place. The 1911 is what won the war. And this is kind of like, it's kind of a smart ass statement that you see on a lot of these forums, like the R Fudd lore and like on K and stuff like that. But I mean, that doesn't make it any less true. I mean, these guys act like the 1911 won 2 world wars. No, it didn't. Men men won world wars, not the weapon. And I'd love to see the stats on how often the 1911 was actually used in these battles. But funny nonetheless. Now we're going to start getting into the more new age type of stuff. All right, next one. Hollow point bullets explode. We all know they expand, but you know what this is in reference to. And that whole situation was quite hilarious. But that goof is not the only person who believes these sorts of things. He got it from somewhere, didn't he? All right. This is still boomerish, but I hear young guys say this too. You don't need capacity if you can hit what you're shooting at. No, how about I have both? That would be a much better decision in my opinion. I'd like to have capacity and hit what I'm shooting at. But this comes from a lot of like younger guys that are kind of have the boomer attitude of like, yeah, I can shoot the wings off a fly's ass if I have XYZ weapon. And yeah, as I've spoken about before, there's a large difference between being in the shit and shit going down and being able to hit what you're shooting at and being in a controlled environment where you're, shooting from a bench or, just a really relaxed, controlled environment with no wind and stuff like that and nobody trying to kill you. That usually makes things easy, doesn't it? But I hear that sort of thing all the time. All right, next one. 223 Remington and 556 NATO are the same thing. This is one like no, they're not. And I've actually spoken to a gun shop guy working the gun shop who told me this. I went in looking for 556. And he's like, oh, I get this 223. It's the same thing. Like, no, it is not. Now, I do have some 223 that I shoot out of my 5.56 ARs, but they're not the same thing. There's a difference in pressure. There's also a difference in point of impact because of the way the 223 is chambered within your 5.56er. So there's a difference. There's a difference in power and pressure. Now, on paper, yeah, it's not that much on paper. I think the 223 is known for having about 55,000 psi, while the 5.56 might have on paper 58,000. So not a huge difference on paper, but there is a difference between these rounds. They are not the same thing. And it actually brings me to this when I hear motherfuckers say it. All right, next one. The AR-15 fires a large caliber bullet. And this is the one that you hear like CNN and MSNBC and these other guys talking about all the time. Drives me up the wall. It, especially since, and people spread it. I think that's really the problem, aside from, the news people know what they're trying to do when they say these things, but the fact that people believe it and they continue to spread it. Well, just we're gonna take a look see at this huge gigantic 5.56 round next to my pinky there. See it, little itty bitty 22 caliber pill. It's basically a 22 on steroids. Yeah, huge round, gigantic. Oh my god. Like, if you think that's big, oh, you've never seen an AR-10 and the 7.62 NATO round before, have you? Anyhow, the next one we're going to go to is practically the exact opposite. 5.56 and 9mm are weak. No. In fact, these calibers have turned a lot of bodies cold, and the military has stuck with them. And a lot of the stories that you hear about, like guys taking more rounds than they probably should have, usually is somebody like doped up on something, and no one has managed to like hit their central nervous system yet and shut the lights off. So there's that. I trust my life to both these calibers, and if you don't, then that's on you. Whatever, you get and use whatever you feel comfortable with. But the idea that these calibers suck and that they're weak is totally wrong, and it's totally Fudd lore. All right, so the last one that we're going to come to, I know people might think that I'm firing shots at a particular person, and I'm not. Not at all, because I hear this everywhere. And, I don't know everything. No, everybody is capable of being wrong, okay? And I don't know everything, nor does anybody else know everything. Nobody's all-knowing. But this is one that does drive me crazy, okay? An AR-15 is an assault rifle. No, it is not, and I'm going to demonstrate that for you right now. All right. So what you're observing right here is the two AR trigger groups on the left are both normal AR-15s that you can go to the store right now and buy. At least the ARs. Now the trigger group in the middle is the Fostech Echo. You'd have to order that off the Fostech website and install it yourself and stuff like that. But for all intents and purposes, it's a normal AR. Now, what's the difference? What makes these two different? I want you to look really closely right now at the image on the bottom right. This is a military trigger control group. This is a military lower receiver. Why? Well, you see the hammer there. Look just below the hammer, and there's this device called an auto sear. Now, what does the auto sear do? The auto sear allows the weapon to fire, depending on how it's set, to fire in full automatic or 3-round burst. Now, compare that to the normal AR-15 on the far left. What you will see is the cutout for the trigger control groups are totally different. You'll notice that if you look on the one on the right, it is very wide and goes down further. That is so that the auto sear can fit in there. There's also a pin that goes through there that holds it in there. You'd have to drill that out if you had an AR-15 and do some other crazy shit. It'd take a lot of work to, and then you'd have to get a hold of an auto sear. So it is a lot of work, and also in this country illegal to do that to your semi-automatic AR-15. Just FYI. So continue to compare the one on the far right with the one on the far left there. Do you think you could put that auto sear in easily into the one on the far left? And the simple answer is no. No, you can't. All right, and let me also qualify my view on the Second Amendment. I'm one of those guys that I believe you should be able to have a M249 Saul full auto if you really wanted it. And that if you are a non-violent felon, or if, you should get your rights back. That's how I see it. Now, if you're too dangerous to have a weapon, you probably shouldn't be getting the fuck out of prison, should you? I mean, that's my views. Of course, I have to, right now, deal with what our actual laws are. It is what it is, but that's just my views on the Second Amendment here in the U.S. And so, with that said, this has been Fudd Lore, Episode 1, and I'll see you guys later.